And welcome to the second video in the tutorial of the putting FPV and the E-Flite Carbon Z T-28 Trojan. In this video, what I would like to do is go over quickly go over as quickly as I can go over the Speedybee boards, and then put it together. Let's download the Inav Configurator, connect the flight controller to the computer. Let's flash the latest firmware to the flight controller, and calibrate the accelerometer. It's not hard to do. The video, I'll try to be as in depth as I can with it. You know, doing it in the video will probably be kind of dry and even kind of slow, but when you do it yourself, it's actually kind of quick. So but I'll try to be slow, not as dry, but let's get started. When you get your Speedybee flight controller, it does come with a really nice quick start guide, and I'll open it up here. I did quickly show you this in the last video. I am going to quickly just show you this again, because it is a long format. You can you study it. It shows you how everything connects. Digital, analog. There is a more detailed manual on the Speedybee website. I will have links in the description, but we'll go through this quickly, through the video, so you can see how it connects. Here's the digital copy of the Speedybee Wing app instruction manual. You can see it a little better. This is something that I would say that you should probably, as you're building your own, maybe have it open on your own computer or phone or iPad or however you view your PDFs. Have it open in front of you so you can see it better than the paper copy. It's kind of small, but you can see the board specifications a lot better. And here you can see where they have the connectors here, where you can just connect them and not actually have to solder them. We are going to be using the DJI Air Unit and the GPS. We're not doing any of the analog stuff. We're not using an airspeed sensors. Here's where the S-Bus connector was. We're not doing that. Here, they say ELRS or crossfire receivers. We are going to be using Spectrum. So I wish they would have a Spectrum / ELRS / crossfire, but they do not. This other image right here is if you decide to do a solder instead of using the connectors. On my last build that I did, I actually did solder. In my head, I was like, oh, I don't want to be pulling in and out of the connectors, and maybe solder's gonna be better. I was just a little paranoid. But you can go through here and read more about it. They have settings. But we're gonna go through all of these. Let's quickly go over the Speedybee flight controller boards. The first board is the power distribution board. It's on the bottom. Right here in this section here is the VTX video transmitter, BEC. It's set at 9 volts on this jumper right here. That is fine for the DJI Air Unit. Right here is the BEC for the flight controller. Right here is the BEC for the servos. The default setting is for 5 volts. You can use solder to change the jumper settings for 6 volt or for 7.2 volt. The pads right here is for the ESC and battery leads for the negative, and for the ESC and battery leads for the positive right here. This middle board right here is the actual flight controller. This right here is where you put the micro SD card, the black box where it records all the data. You can solder for the, and this section right here will be for the digital VTX or video transmitter. This middle section right here is where you could solder the GPS, or right here would be for the analog. I think right here would be if you have anything for telemetry. You have like a digital airspeed, you know, sensor or analog. Right here is for S-Bus. I think it's like if you for S-Bus receivers, S1, S2 is going to be for your motors. We only have one motor, so we'll be connecting, you know, that here. And S3 all the way to S11 is going to be for your servos. Right here is going to be the connection for ELRS, Crossfire, but in our case it's going to be where we connect our Spectrum receiver. But what's nice about the Speedybee flight controller is we do not have to solder here. We can if we want. The only thing that we are going to have to solder is the DuPont connectors in this area here. Flip this over, and what they do is they provide us the JST connectors. And what's nice, and I'll show you here, is in the package they give us all kinds of nice cables that that we can use to connect. So we have the option to solder or not to solder on these connections right here, but we do have to connect or solder these connections here. So there is some minor soldering. It'd be nice if we didn't have to, but we do. So let's move on to the next board, which will be the top board, and this is the wireless board. The wireless is, you know, a Wi-Fi connection or a Bluetooth connection. It goes on top, and what's nice is that you can connect to the flight controller using the Speedybee app from your phone, you know, whether it's an iPhone, an Android phone, or an iPad, or, you know, some type of tablet. You cannot do firmware updates wireless, so you do have to connect it to your computer. These connectors right here are for LEDs. I'm not connecting any LEDs to this build, but that's what these connectors are for. This little board right here is the USB Type-C board. This is how we connect it to the computer, how we connect it to iNav. You also could connect this to the RG-Pilot, but this is going to be an iNav build. It has a buzzer. This is a switch right here for the buzzer, on-off switch. This is the boot button. This is the flight controller. This is like a little LED status light, and this is where how it connects to the flight controller. It connects here with a cable, and if I can get it out of here. This is the cable that that they provide that connects everything. So let's go ahead and put the board together, and we will do a firmware update and connect it to Inav. Now that we have the Speedybee flight controller put together, we need to upload the latest firmware onto it. To do that, we need to download the latest Inav Configurator. In the description, in the video description, I'll have all the related links that you're going to need. So that'll take you right there. The latest stable version of Inav today is Inav 7. And when you go to get the latest version of Inav, you will know what version is the latest stable release, because they notate it here. You can see where it says latest. So what we're going to do is we're going to go grab the latest version of Inav Configurator. We're going to scroll down here. They're going to tell you a lot about, when you start, you can go and read all about the latest cool things that this version's doing, but we'll scroll back up here to the top because we're not going to do that here. So what we want here, you can see I have it highlighted here. Inav Configurator 7, so it says upgrading. So download and install the new Inav 7. So you can just left click here, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna right click and say open link in new tab, just in case I need to come back over here. So I'm gonna come over here to the new tab, and right here it jumps right up to the top here. It says Inav Configurator 7.1.0 release candidate 1 pre-release. Again, I don't ever recommend using a pre-release of anything. I'm not a beta tester. I don't recommend any of you to be beta testers unless you are brave and you want to risk losing your plane. I mean, Inav is great, but I'm not that familiar with it that I trust losing, my stuff. So let's continue scrolling down here until we find, here we go, Inav Configurator 7.0.1 latest. This is the latest version. So you see here it says this version of Inav Configurator is intended to be used only with Inav Firmware 7.0 Ferocious Falcon. Okay, so we're going to scroll down here until we get to where it says Assets. So whether you have a Mac or a Windows operating system or even Linux, currently I'm using a Mac OS. So what I will do is you can either use the DMG file or the zip file to download. If you're using a Windows operating system, you can download the EXE for the 64-bit operating system, or you can download the zip file. It's your choice. If you have an older 32-bit operating system for Windows, you'll use Win32. I think the majority of people today are probably safe to use the 64. If you're unsure, use the Win32, and you'll be fine. If you are a Linux user, I can't help you. I don't use Linux, but if you're a Linux user, you know what to do, and you probably shouldn't be watching my videos because you are golden. But for Mac users, I'm just going to use the DMG, and I'm going to grab it, and it's downloading. So I'm going to let it download. I'm going to go ahead and install it. I'm assuming that if you have a computer, you know how to install your own software. So once it's installed, open up the Inav Configurator, and we'll go from there. To connect the Speedybee flight controller to the computer, you're going to use a USB Type-C board, expansion board right here, and you're going to use a USB Type-C cable. It does not come with with one, so if you don't have one, you'll need to purchase one, but most people have one. If not, you need to find one on Amazon, but you'll connect it here like this, and with Inav Configurator already opened, here you go, it's booting up, and then your indicator lights will start blinking as it boots up. So now we can begin the firmware upgrade process. Okay, one thing that's important to note that I have found is to always have the Inav Configurator open before you plug your flight controller in. So now that we have our Speedybee flight controller plugged in, we have Inav open. Let's do a firmware update. Also, I would like to say, I was just joking about any Linux users that may be watching my video. I don't want to alienate you guys. I am an IT guy, and I love and respect y'all. I don't mess around with Linux. I did a long time ago, but I don't anymore. Before we get going, I am on a Mac, but right here, this is this should automatically populate through your USB. If so when you plug your flight controller, whether it's a Speedybee, a Maytech, or anything else, it should automatically detect what it is that you're connecting to through your USB device. If not, you should get some type of connection error here, or somewhere else we're about to go here. You may have to do some troubleshooting, but that should be taken in on another video somewhere. That we don't have time to cover here. But from right here, since we have Inav 6 that is preloaded on the Speedybee, and this is the Inav Configurator 7.0.1, which is right here. We can't do anything with the flight controller yet in Inav, so the next thing that we need to do is to upload the firmware. If you're here on the left side of the Inav Configurator, we're going to come over here to where it says Firmware Flasher. And if you have the the connection over here, if it detects your USB connection, fine, it'll automatically, or should automatically, detect your Speedybee or whatever flight controller that you have. If it doesn't, you can click this button here, auto select target, and it'll find it. If we click this pull down menu right here, you can look and see all of the different flight controllers that Inav is compatible with. But we're going to be doing the Speedybee F405 wing, and you can see that it, as soon as we clicked on the firmware flasher, it found it. The next step is choose a firmware version for the Speedybee, and we are going to be doing the 7.0, and we are going to do a full chip erase. And you can see here the warning here is please do not try to flash a non-Inav hardware with this firmware flasher, and we're not, because Speedybee is the F405 wing is compatible with Inav. And we have two options here. We can load the firmware from online, or we can load the firmware local. So I do not have a local copy on this computer, so we're going to say load firmware online. And let's wait. Okay, and it takes us to the web page. It takes us, to the, we can read all about it, but as you see here, when it brought us here, this button right here popped up and it says flash firmware. So we are going to flash the firmware. As you see, the progress bar here says it's erasing. So what it's doing right now, it is erasing the flash memory on the what's currently on the Speedybee flight controller. Now it's flashing it with the latest version. It's also important to note that if something happens during the upgrade process, it says right here, recovery loss communication. Follow these steps right here. All right, it says programming successful. It is done. We are finished. Now that the flight controller has been upgraded, now we can get into it and start looking at it. So the next thing to do is to come up here to the little button up here that says connect in the top right hand corner of the Inav Configurator, and let's click connect. Alright, the first thing that happened is a little box here that says default values. Inav Configurator would like to know what kind of UAV you are configuring using an airplane with a tail. And so let's choose that. All right, saving default settings. Now everything that we do in Inav Configurator, anytime we do anything, we're always going to need to do a save and reboot. Anytime we move between screens, we do a save and reboot. And you can see right here, that's what it's doing right now. We made a change, and it asks us first thing, what kind of device do you have? And then it's like, okay, save and reboot. So, all right, here we are. And I'm not showing you on the other screen yet, but I'm picking up the Speedybee and has the accelerometer on it, and you can see that I'm moving it around. So we're getting ready to do a calibration on it here in just a second, but you can see that it is working. All right, so we will do a calibration on it. But this is the Inav Configurator. So Right here it says the Inav Configurator 7.0.1 and the flight controller software is 7.0, and it recognizes it as a Speedybee F405 wing. Alright, so everything is looking great so far. All right, the last thing we're going to do in this video is we're going to calibrate the accelerometer for the flight controller. And how we do that is right here on the Inav Configurator. Is on the left hand side is a little tab there that says calibration. So we're going to click on that calibration tab, and it's really easy to do. But this is why I hadn't soldered in the DuPont servo connectors yet. So after calibrate the flight controller, the next thing I'll do is I'll take the flight controller all apart, do all my soldering, and then put it back together. And then I'll start the next video in the series. So what we're going to do is we're going to get out of the way here because we want to be able to have a flat surface. So let's calibrate the accelerometer. So we want flat. Calibrate. Alright, place the flight controller in position shown in image, then press calibrate button again. Repeat for each of 6 positions. Keep it stable during calibration. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to place it flat. So calibrate. Alright, let's put it on its side. Make sure it's flat. Calibrate. Okay. Make sure it's flat. Calibrate. Now, let's put it on this side right here. Make sure it's flat. Calibrate. Okay. Now, because I have the USB extender here, I'm going to put it on the edge of the table so that's flat that way. Calibrate. Now, see if I had everything on here. Put it here, flat on the table. Calibrate. Accelerometer calibration finished. Check if values have been saved. Okay. Everything checks. But before we do anything else, we need to do a save and reboot. Alright, device rebooting. Alright, so let's come over here to setup. Alright. There it is. The accelerometer has been calibrated. And now we can take the flight control apart and do what soldering needs to be done. And we can start configuring, and things should start speeding up from here. Also note that we shouldn't have to calibrate the flight controller again. The only other time on my last build that I've had to recalibrate, it was whenever I upgraded from version 6 to version 7. But other than that, I've never had to touch it again after doing it the first time. I appreciate you getting through the whole video with me. One of the things that I didn't mention at the start was, I didn't solder the DuPont servo connectors, on the middle board, the flight controller board. I didn't do that because I wanted to calibrate the accelerometer on the flight controller first. Now that we've gone through putting it all together, powering it up through the computer, flashing it with the latest version of Inav, we know that it works. We're not going to have to send it back because there would be that question if I went ahead and soldered it first and had it all done and then put it together, powered it up, and it wasn't working. Was it my fault or was it fried before? So doing it that way, now we know that the board is fine, and so now if I solder it and fry it, we know it's my fault and not it didn't come that way to me. So it's kind of I would recommend when you get your flight controller that you do that as well. Make certain that the board is fine before you do anything to it. So it can kind of give you a peace of mind. So now that we've done this video here, I'm gonna go and I'll start putting it all together for the for the next video. So thank you for following me on this one, and I'll drop the third one soon. Again, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you soon.